We're waiting. Okay, we're now live, so everything's on record.
That's great. Okay, do we have an agenda for this meeting?
I didn't think to suggest one, I have to be honest. But in my mind, I guess one of the targets that we should have is maybe some objectives of what we want to achieve next.
Yeah,
Okay.
I agree with Craig.
And there was, yeah, I agree as well. But again, I mean, there was also one more thing where I think someone mentioned, I forgot whom, that maybe we should agree on what is the multiple phases of the project, like which phase, like what can we deliver as a first phase, something to the customer, and then plan for the future phases.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Maybe
Guys,
that is
first suggestion, just let someone share the screen and open the page. I don't know, Google Docs, our Agile Ventures website, anything, just to write what we are discussing about. So we won't drift from it. Oh, you have it. Great.
Yeah, I have a little bit here.
Anyway,
I wouldn't call this an agenda, but it's something.
Should have high-level overview. Dev and production test. So tech. Okay, I want to suggest format of how we are doing OSRA project. I think that is something that we can discuss.
So this is more of a sort of day-to-day kind of operation, you mean, or?
Well, we need to discuss if we want to make it in a Scrum way or we want to make it in anarchy way. Doesn't matter. If we want to make sprints or not, and how long should be that sprint. When we want to have meetings on a regular basis or just ad hoc meetings. Do we want to have daily scrums or not? And when we want to have sprint planning meetings, something like that, you know, format that will suit everyone. I think that is very important. I just don't know how much time everyone can commit to a project.
Right.
We need to understand that too.
Yes. Okay. Does anybody want to add anything else to the agenda then?
One more thing from me too, sorry.
Sure.
About client, I want to understand when we do have client meetings, because we should have them.
Okay. Yeah, definitely we can discuss this.
That's it
Anything
from me.
else? Yeah. So I broke it up into this kind of the higher level, and I have a couple of technical questions. I don't know if we're actually going to get to these tonight, but maybe that's something for a future discussion. That's it, nothing else?
I mean, regarding you mentioned provinces, part of the technical questions. I mean, similar to provinces, we will have other families of models that are similar in behavior. Like, for example, next step would be we have branches. Like OSRA itself will have different branches. So that's also like a kind of a lookup table where we have a code and the name for each branch. Those do not change often at all. We will have sister organizations as well, like organizations that cooperate with them. So that's as well will be a lookup table. So maybe part of the discussion is to see how better to address these kind of objects.
Information that doesn't change much doesn't bother me really, but what does make me a little uneasy is if we have historical information that's cast in tablets of stone because it's been used in spreadsheets. So I think we have is the province ID and a province name, and I'm guessing they're tightly coupled because they've been historically used on spreadsheets.
Yes.
And I think we should distinguish between data that's like that and is fragile because of it. compared to ordinary data that just doesn't change very much, because that's easy to deal with. It's just a table, and it's hardly ever changes, if you see what I mean.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-mm.
But when we have provinces that have a historical dependency, for want of a better word, we need to be careful that those are maintained going forward.
Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, this is one extra point added to that item in the agenda. So we need to discuss maybe the whole approach or direction of how to deal with this kind of models.
Mm-hmm. Okay, guys, if nobody else wants to add anything to the agenda at this point, do you mind if we start at the beginning and sort of start at the high level and kind of start zooming in a bit more and more?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So for me, I think of the people here, I'm the newest member of the team. For me, this is something, the high-level overview of the project is something that I would very much like to hear, to know what it is exactly that we're trying to build here, basically.
Sure. Okay, I can take that. Basically, OSRA is a charity organization. It is by people from Syria originally, but they're living outside, with the idea that they want to take care of the Syrian orphan situation. So they're trying to meet all the needs for the Syrians, kids who lost their parents or father, by linking them to sponsors. Sponsors can be individual organizations that are interested in this cause. So these sponsors will have monthly payments. These monthly payments will be like, there will be a link between a sponsor and an orphan, a specific orphan. So the sponsors are not like just giving donations to be distributed by OSRA over all orphans. It's like a direct link between a sponsor and an orphan, and that will make a monthly commitment from the sponsor to pay a certain amount. I think currently it's like around $50 per month for the to take care of the education, food, shelter requirements of each of the orphans.
Okay.
So USRA, as a group of people who are working towards this goal, they have been using Excel sheets so far to manage all the information on what orphans they have, their locations, information about them, plus the sponsors they already have, also the link between the sponsors and the orphans. Those sponsors come from maybe different organizations or come as individuals. That data needs to be saved somewhere as well. The orphans themselves come through partners they have inside Syria. So that also needs to be... So they needed a system to manage all of this, to make it as much as they can in a automated digital way without relying on Excel sheets and files passing back and forth. And it needs to be centralized so that even a new member joins USRA later, living in somewhere else, they can access it through the web, see the information they need, they can start being productive right away. So this is the basic idea of the objective of the system that we're trying to build for them.
Okay, great. Yeah, thank you for that explanation. It kind of helps me see where it is that we're trying to go.
Yeah, I remember. I think there was a question. Was it you or Nick? Maybe that regarding the definition of orphan.
Yes, I was the one who was asking.
Yeah. So basically, an orphan is a person who lost one of his parents or both. The thing is now, in the situation in Syria, we have hundreds of thousands of orphans. So the concentration, I mean, USRA itself is now taking care of maybe 1,200 of those. So that's like less than 1% of the total orphan population. So the highest priority right now is for kids who lost their father, because usually the father is the source of income to the family. So that's why you can see now that one of the data fields that we capture is the date of father's date of death.
Yeah.
as opposed to mother's date of death or a parent's date of death. That's the reason, because now if a kid lost his mom, that is an orphan, but the idea is that there is another orphan that lost his dad, that's more priority for them to handle.
Okay, I see.
And there was another question about how can we know if the father is considered the martyr or the... So basically, again, because of the situation that's happening in Syria, the decision was that they want to take care of the highest priority right now, which is kids who lost their father because of the violence that's happening in the country, like by if the father died by a bomb or by an explosion. This is what they consider a martyr, as opposed to somebody who died out of maybe in a car accident or out of illness or old age. So these people, these kids who lost their fathers because of the violence that's happening in Syria, those are the first priority slice of orphans that they want to concentrate on.
Okay, great. Yeah, thank you. Thanks again. Anybody have any more questions about this, the overview?
Maybe I can add something about the project itself. Like, this is the high overview of OSRA as an organization and what their requirements is. From the system they want, I mean, they came to me. I know some of those people who are working in this, so they came to me and asked if we can do an application for them. And the way we discussed this was that they envision it like, first of all, they want something that they can put all of their data in one place, in one database. So like phase 0, you can say, is that if we can give them something that will allow them to store all the partner details, sponsor details, orphan details, store it all in a centralized database, they can view and edit as required, and they can link a sponsor to a specific orphan. That's the minimum they can start using the system with. So if we give them something like this, they can take all of their Excel sheets and dump it in the database and start looking at the clean data through one centralized web-based system. Phase 2 would be to add functionality, or I mean, that's phase 0, if we call it phase 0, which is the minimum viable product they can use to start using to start entering their data. Phase 1, or the next step, would be to have the possibility of linking, changing the links. Like one sponsor is, for example, committed with them, and later, after 6 months of paying their monthly payments, they stopped. So what happens next? That orphan needs to be put back into the pool of available orphans. Then that's if another sponsor comes available, linked to that. So this kind of logic is the next step they would like to have. The third step would be to have payments tracked through the system. So right now, payments is something done offline. They want to see like the history of payments for each sponsor, how many orphans he's sponsoring. For each sponsor, for example, some financial reporting on which are the months that he got the payments, things like this.
Okay.
The final step, the ultimate goal they would like to have is like a public website where they can advertise, say that this is the cause, this is what we are trying to do, and then sponsors would register through this website. After the information about sponsors goes through the team and it's verified, the sponsor himself can log in to the system and look at the data of, for example, the orphan he's sponsoring, maybe even pay online, maybe as well add things like, in addition to the monthly payments, they can add things like for holidays, maybe they want to just give an extra gift, for example, so they pay an extra $20, for example, on holiday season, things like that. That's like the ultimate goal for them.
Okay.
Any questions?
I'm not sure whether this is relevant, but is it going to be hosted on Heroku eventually, or I mean, how is it going to be?
From the client side, they don't care. I mean, they don't even know what Heroku is. They trust that whatever we will give them is what will work for them. So they are willing to pay for hosting.
Okay.
They know it might cost some money, and they're okay with it.
Okay.
And I explained to them like how Heroku, like there is the free tier where if they are still starting up, probably they will not have to pay anything except when the load becomes higher, and they're okay with this.
Okay, that's what I was driving at. So that's perfect.
Do we have some time orienters to us about each phase?
Do we have what?
Deadlines, something like that for phases. Just a vague idea.
Like when do they? You mean when do they expect these phases to be done?
Well, of course, because if it will be done in 10 years, maybe that conflict will be ended earlier, you know. We need to...
No, definitely. Like for phase 0 and phase 1, probably they want as soon as possible because their highest priority at the moment is to get rid of those Excel sheets that go flying by email back and forth and different versions and multiple people working on the same. So that's an unbelievable mess they're in now, right now. So they want to get rid of that as soon as possible. So the sooner we can give them something there they can store the basic models in, orphan, sponsor, and partner, and with some functionality to just import Excel files, that will be very good for them. They're very eager to get this as soon as possible.
Okay. About tracking payments, that does mean that without website, what should we track? Track payments where?
No. This is tracking payments. I mean, like for example, they have a branch. OSRA itself has a branch in, for example, in Saudi Arabia. So they have sponsors from in Saudi Arabia themselves. So these sponsors will pay them in person. They'll not pay through the tracking payments, would mean like they want to record the fact that from this sponsor they received, for example, the payment for the next 6 months. So
it's just a record in a database rather than the actual transaction.
Yeah, definitely. It's not the actual transaction.
It reminds me CRM system, you know, customer relationship management. Just it's just that system. We need to create it. Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah.
But
sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
How far do you think what percentage, if you had to put a percent on how close we are to completing phase 0? Are we halfway through, quarter way through?
No, I think more. Like maybe 50 to 60%. The major thing that's still pending is the Excel file upload and parsing.
Yeah.
But so that's maybe like 30%, and then the rest are some maybe minor changes here and there just to make sure that everything works as planned. So I think that would get us to phase 0. So like maybe 50 to 60% we're at now.
Okay, now a question. In our backlog in Pivotal Tracker, how can we understand how many stories we are still left to phase 0 and phase 1, so to be clear about it?
Okay, now in Pivotal Tracker, everything in Pivotal Tracker is still, functionality-wise, is still phase 0, except maybe the internationalization, they can live without that, even for phase 2, for example.
That is all what we have in Pivotal Tracker now, right?
Yeah, but that's not everything, because even phase 0, for example, the part related to defining, for example, branches, I still did not add it. There's also linking a sponsor to a specific orphan. That's not added yet. So in Pivotal Tracker, I still need to add a few stories to complete phase 0. And then,
so that would be a good first objective, wouldn't it, to get all the phase 0 stories on Pivotal?
Yeah, definitely, yes.
So does anybody object to using epics to organize it this way?
No.
That's what I wanted to suggest. Thank you, Nikita. Yes,
So
epics.
you mean
Perfect.
phase 0 is an epic, phase 1 is an epic?
No. I don't know about phase 0. Phase 0 should be described in user stories, but from phase 1 till final goal, it should be definitely made up as an epics. Not phase or equal to epic, no. But for example, Excel file upload and parsing, it's one epic. Another epic is something else that we should do in phase 0. So we can track at least by epics. Yes, let's
I see.
do it. Introduce it.
And usually epics are something releasable, like when we finish an epic, we can release something.
No, it's not connected
necessarily.
actually. Epics is just a bunch of user stories related to one topic on a business level. On business level, we can discuss in epics. In development level, we should discuss in user stories. So epics is like a connection between business and development. That's the idea.
Okay. So just
Pavel,
to
maybe
summarize what we agreed now, like I will add all the stories that are part of phase 0 functionality, and then from that point onwards we start adding all the stories as part of epics, right?
Yes.
So phase 0, we don't need an epic for that for now.
Maybe we need, I don't know, for now. It depends on how many stories left for phase 0. If you can easily write all stories in Pivotal Tracker and it will be like 5 or 10 user stories, we don't need an epic. If you cannot write all of them now, it's better to create at least epics in Pivotal Tracker.
Okay, so yeah, I'll do that. I'll start by listing all the stories and then looking at them, and if it makes sense, I'll divide them into multiple epics. If not, they are few, like you said.
Yeah. Well, and then since this internationalization is already in here, but we can sort of, let's say, achieve phase 0 without it, then yeah, let's create an epic right away and put it in there.
Also, internationalization on its own is an epic, and that might come up with also additional stories like translation of labels. So all of that will dump it in an internationalization epic, you mean?
You know, I'm not exactly sure what will be involved in this. For now, maybe just separate it from the rest of the stories by putting it into its own epic. And yeah, later we can decide from the sort of more developing standpoint whether we need this to be a separate epic or.
So my Scrum knowledge is a little bit lacking. Are we saying that we tend to use epics, A, to group stories that we are sure about together, and B, if we're not sure how complicated a story is going to be, we create it as an epic and then fill out the stories as it becomes more clear? Is that right, or have I got that wrong?
I was thinking of it backwards, that we create a story first, and then if we realize that you know, it's not a simple thing,
it becomes an epic.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Craig, you're right, actually, yes. First of all, you know, it is a, if you imagine that backlog as a big building, then on top of it we have user stories because we know about them and they're all in details. And to the to the ground levels, it's going with more pack. And it's more pack, you can use epics there, so just make brief ideas of what we have. But on the development in a backlog, we definitely should have user stories. They can be grouped in epics, yes, but that's not the main point.
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay.
All right. Guys, if you can see what I'm writing here, and if you think that I'm missing something, please let me know.
No, that looks pretty good.
Yeah, you mentioned, I mean, you're listing out phase 0 towards the end of the page. You have phase 0 and you have 1 point for Excel file. Are you planning to list all the functionality that's within phase 0 here?
I just heard that it was you listed as one of the key requirements to finishing phase 0.
Yeah, I can give you more details on exactly what is included in phase 0. If you want, I can do it now, or maybe, for example, later we can maybe this document we can share and then have it as part of the wiki.
Yeah, definitely. This is going up on Agile Ventures, and everybody's welcome to
So I
contribute.
can edit this and to make it more clear what exactly is phase 0. Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. Back to Pavel's question, for phase 2 and this final goal, is there any set timeline? Like they really, really want it, in 2014 or anything like that?
I mean, I would say, if I ask them, I expect them to say, of course, we need it quickly.
Yeah.
But again, I can go back to them and say, okay, if we got you phase 0 and phase 1, what would be the next? For example, they will need some time, for example, just to upload all of their data, maybe do some data cleansing manually, assign roles on the team members. Maybe internally they will have to do some training for team members to start using the system. So that might give us more time, actually, before they start asking for the functionality in phase 2 and forward. So I can get to the client, ask them exactly.
How often are you planning to have client meetings?
This is also one point. When we started the project, we told them that we need a weekly meeting with them, like an hour every week, and they were okay with that.
Okay.
Said 1 or 2 hours every 1 or 2 weeks. They were okay with that commitment. But things at the beginning were very slow, so that was not kept that schedule.
Yeah.
So now, for example, we are doing some progress. I can contact them again and say, okay, now we need again. If you guys think that is enough, then they're already okay with that amount. If you need more or less, also we can discuss with them.
So it is our restrictions about client meetings.
Yeah,
We can
definitely.
do it at least every week. Okay.
Yeah. We're trying to help them, and they appreciate this. So if we ask something from them, even if it's a little bit difficult on them, they will try to accommodate us.
Mm-hmm.
Are you meeting them face to face, or is it over the internet?
Over the internet. I can. Right now, I can meet with them face to face the next 2 weeks because I'm. But when I go back home, I would have to do it online.
Right. Does anybody have a feeling on how often we want client meetings?
It's definitely depend on sprint length.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Should we talk about that first then?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Well, we have not many options. 1 week, 2 week, 3 or 4. I don't know. 1 week is very fast sprints, very aggressive. I don't know if we can afford it for us.
Based on what I've seen in the past week, yeah, it doesn't seem likely. Just in terms of how much time we're able to devote to this, and how much progress we can make.
Mm-hmm.
What about fortnightly?
Yeah.
Well, it's for fortnightly. It's reasonable. It looks like reasonable. Yeah.
I think if we go to 3 weeks, we're going to lose momentum.
I agree with that.
3 weeks is very strange. 3 weeks, really, it's hard to manage. We use them 3 weeks in my current job, but only due to the reason of testing. 1 week for testing, because we do not have auto tests. So I suppose that 2 weeks is perfect. It's slightly aggressive too, but I hope we can cope with it.
Well, if we can't, then we can review it, presumably. I mean,
sure.
If we pick a number and see how we do, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we're supposed to be agile, right? So.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah. Let's do 2 weeks. Okay, 2 weeks.
So and the client meeting then follows the same schedule, or I mean, it's every 2 weeks then as well.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, so easy enough.
Who is the product owner for us? Modosem, you?
Yes, I am.
You. Okay. Okay. Can we try to set any kind of
a schedule for the planning and the what is it called, the retrospectives?
Yeah, well, yes, let's do that. It's better to start from Monday and end on Friday. Just psychology. What do you think, guys?
Right.
Yeah, it's like, yeah.
So the planning meeting should come before. Is that right?
Well, the order is yes. Planning meeting is well. For example, planning meeting maybe on Monday. Then demo meeting should be, for example, on Thursday of the second week, every second week, and then retrospective meeting, for example, on Friday or on Saturday every second week, something like that. It's a basic schedule which we can have.
Okay.
We
So
can have on, yeah.
I'm just going to write it down so that we can see it. And so,
so can somebody just with one sentence just remind me like what is happening in the retrospective meeting and the demo meeting days?
Okay,
so
sure.
What are
on demo, it is the client meeting with a client where we show what we've done to the client and listen to his suggestions about what to improve, what to change in the next sprint. So we understand if we done all or not, and we can use these ideas to our next sprint. So this is demo.
And that's where we finish, not finish, actually accept stories. We demo some story. If they're happy, we accept it.
Well, it is a question because a product owner actually accepting the stories. So demo is when product owner, you should accept stories earlier, because not client accepts stories, but product owner.
Okay.
And all accepted stories we should show to the client and said to him, this stories was done, this was done, this was done, and took from him suggestions. It's not about accepting the stories, it's about suggestions to the new user stories. This is the client.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
So there is like as a product owner, I will release, for example, those finished stories beforehand, before the demo date to the customer, to the client.
I think yes, because you
play around with it. If I know that they're accepted, I will accept them, and then in the demo, they will just officially meeting with the whole team maybe, and then suggestions for the next steps.
We can do it in this thing. I don't know. It's just I don't know how to do it better. You know, we have, for example, now in our company we have user acceptance meetings before demo, and demo is the official part. Yes, we can play with it. Retrospective meeting. It is a meeting of development team where we talking about how the sprint goes, what we did good, what was not that good, what we should improve, what suggestions client gave us, and how can we implement that suggestions. We trying to improve every 2 weeks, to improve something, you know, and all discussions about technical stuff, about problems with communications, about suggestions like making sprint longer or shorter, and so on. It is for retrospectives. Yeah.
Okay. And the planning is to plan for the upcoming or the start of
yes,
sprint.
planning divided into 2 parts. First, we are going to take stories. What stories can we take to the sprint? And second part, when we divide these stories into tasks, so we can understand what every story is about and
who will work on which one.
Yes, and who will work on it mainly. Yes.
So voting on the points for each story is not part of the planning. It's something that will happen in Scrum.
It is maybe part of a planning, but I prefer to use grooming sessions for it. Sprint grooming, you know, when it may come after Scrum, for example, when we discussing about stories. We can do it on planning, But usually grooming should be held more.
Yeah, just keep in mind that, you know, with such a small team, I don't know if we can have every single meeting
That's
or
right.
every single kind of meeting
Yes, we can do grooming on planning meeting now,
Mm.
but we should be prepared that grooming is kind of. So
Right.
planning with grooming will take at least 2 hours. We need to
Wow.
understand that. Yeah, because it just one story we can discuss about 15 minutes. For example, if we have 5 stories in sprint and 5 stories can easily go in sprint, it is took about 1 hour and maybe 1.5 hours only for voting on that stories and discussing them, right?
Yeah.
And after that we need to plan. So it took time. We can do planning. For example, we can do planning on every first Monday and grooming every second Monday, for example, in addition to planning. So we
Oh, yeah.
can, because 2 hours or more when 2 hours meeting is very hard to hold.
Exactly, yeah, definitely.
So I prefer to make every Monday we make grooming or grooming plus planning.
Or plan.
It will
Yeah,
be better.
Mhm.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay. What else? Should we talk about? Pavel, you mentioned scrums.
Yep.
Schedule for scrums.
And daily scrums. Well, I'm doing America scrums. We can easily use America scrums as our base, you know, for making scrums if this time suits you. If not, we can choose other time.
That happens at what time usually?
America Scrum at 1800 UTC, just 1 hour before our meeting. That our meeting.
All right.
1800 UTC.
Are they busy right now, the America scrums?
Not that busy. About 2-3 people usually. We're quite busier on Wednesday because after America Scrum on Wednesday we have a meeting for website 1, but we can easily talk on America Scrums. We have plenty of time to do it on America Scrums. We're not too bit crowded, so we can use it. We can use it for all projects, but it's not the problem. I think we can easily talk about OSRA on America Scrums.
How does that sound to everybody else?
Myself, for the next 2 to 3 weeks, I am flexible with time, so that's fine with me. After that, maybe I had to just double check my schedule, and we'll see. I cannot confirm from now.
Okay, Craig, Nikita.
Yeah, Craig, go ahead.
No, go on.
Well, for me, I have to say it's not the perfect time. An hour later would work much better.
Okay, let's no problem, guys. We can do
So an hour later would be exact time that we started this meeting, right?
Yes.
Precisely.
Yeah, that's good as well for me.
Craig?
Yeah, I mean, my timings are very erratic, and I wouldn't. I think pick a time that suits you guys, and I'll try my best to fit in with it. And then if I can't be there, I can join Slack, catch up on Slack, or watch the videos if I've not got a chance to be there. I'm normally good, sort of Tuesdays to Thursdays, but Fridays to Mondays are a little bit erratic.
Yeah. Is 1900 UTC particularly bad for you?
No, I mean it's as good as any time, to be honest with you.
Okay.
So for Nikita, you bet 1900. Okay, Motasem, for you, 1900 is better.
For the next 3 weeks, 1900 is good.
Yeah, but for the after 3 weeks.
I can't tell you from now.
You don't know. Oh, okay. Because it will be just strange when at 1800 we have one scrum and at 19 another. It's not a problem, but what I fear about that For example, at 1800 at America Scrum, we have like 2 or 3 people. We easily talk. After that, we're going to 1100 UTC and making Scrum for OSRA project, and that is very big possibility that no one came, or just one guy came, and that.
Yeah, well, Pavel, I agree with you in principle, but you know, for me personally, let's say my family life takes priority on this. So
Great. Okay. Okay.
Uh,
No problem.
yeah.
1900. Okay.
And you know, same as Craig said. You know, I'll do my best, but
No, okay.
that's all I can promise.
It's okay. 1900 UTC. Okay, deal.
All right.
I understand the reasons, so no
Sure.
problem.
Okay. Let's move on to what do we have? So basically, have we covered everything?
So given this schedule,
Yeah.
I'm just asking, like, should I start from now asking the client for, like, have a next client meeting, sometimes set the date from now and ask them to be available on a certain date, or is that too early to talk to them about?
I think we have to have something to present, do we? Or Pavel, help us out here.
Well, in my opinion, it is better to do something before we ask client, because if we, for some reasons, fail with doing that, it won't be good.
Okay. Well,
yeah.
Should we set a target for phase note, even if it's a ridiculous target or happens to be way off the mark? I mean, setting a target can't hurt, can it? We've got something to aim for, and then we can evaluate it if it was too ambitious or not ambitious enough. What are people's thoughts on that?
I think, like we said, sprints will start on Monday and they will go for 2 weeks. So when is our first sprint starting, for example? Is it this upcoming Monday?
No.
So the Monday,
Everybody's too busy.
The Monday after that, in 10 days approximately. So and then a 2-week sprint that will conclude with a demo on a Friday. So we can calculate the date and say maybe tentatively this is the day we will have our first client meeting.
First, so 12th of September, 14th of September.
14th September.
14th of September, yeah. Seems like.
Let me see my calendar. 14th September is a what? Is a Friday?
The end of our first.
Oh.
The end of first sprint.
It's a Sunday.
Well, I don't know. It's a Sunday, yes. Okay, we can. I don't know. We have seven days in a week or 5. I just don't know, guys. Your timetable.
Well, let's call it 12, and on a Friday, like Pavel, you suggested in the beginning.
I'm traveling on the 12th, so I will be maybe busy one day before that, and maybe a day after that.
Let's go for the 11th.
That's right.
Make it, yeah, if we can make it.
All right.
During the week's best for me, if that's okay with everyone else. I'd rather aim for a Thursday than a Saturday or a Sunday.
Yeah, agreed. Same here.
Definitely. Yeah.
So, Modestum, you estimated that we're 50-60% done.
Yes. I mean, if over this is like 3 weeks. Actually, today is 28th, so we can say the sprint. How did you guys come up with this date? Like, you said the sprint will not start next Monday, which is the 1st of September.
Why it won't start next Monday?
Because I thought you guys said no. Like I told you, like with the next.
I thought it was a joke.
Oh, okay. Okay. So,
every Monday is hard day.
So, well, kids go to school on the first, but I don't know what difference that makes.
Anyway, yeah. So yes, we can start next Monday, and then we target. So we don't have to have phase 0 completed by then, right? As long as we have something to demo to them and have an initial meeting with them.
Do we even need to demo to them by that stage? I think maybe the initial target's to get phase 0 completed.
Yeah, I
Pavel?
think, yeah, I would have liked to set a target, not, I would
Okay,
like to think in
the,
terms of completion of phase
the,
zero
the
right now instead
target
of
is
the,
to complete phase 0, you mean?
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I see.
It's a good
Okay.
target.
Could we complete phase 0 in 2 to 3 sprints? Would that be a possibility, or is that what
Okay,
are
now
people's?
I'm
Um,
confused. You're saying you want to complete phase 0 by the 11th or 12th, or you want to
No,
complete
sorry,
first
2 to 3
sprint?
sprints, so 4 to 6 weeks. Is that?
I think 2 sprints would be enough to complete phase 0, yes.
We've got that complicated Excel thing, though, haven't we?
Yeah, but
and there are some stories that are not on Pivotal yet, as far as I understand. Is that right?
yes, there are, but
Yeah.
functionality-wise, they are not very complex. So, I mean, up to you guys. You want to make me, like, should I just go back, fill all the stories for phase 0, and then we have this discussion? Or set a target from now, and then see
The
how it
target
goes?
will be stayed on planning meeting. That's what planning meeting for. Before you should definitely create all stories in Pivotal Tracker, and after that we just can discuss. And for now it's hard to say when we will finish phase 0 because we just don't know what it consists of. That's the main
Yes.
problem. Yeah.
Okay, so this then doesn't make any sense at this point. This target completion date of 11 September.
Yes, it makes no point.
Okay, let's get rid of it. And basically, so ideally we should have a planning meeting on Monday.
Can we handle planning meeting on Monday the 1st, or it's not real?
If the what do we need to have a planning meeting? To have all the stories in Pivotal Tracker? Is that the prerequisite, right?
It is a
Anything
prerequisite,
else?
yes.
Anything else? I can take care of that. I'll
Time,
make sure that.
guys, time. On Monday we
Time,
should
yeah.
have time. I don't know if we will have it or not. If not, maybe we should do it on Sunday. I don't know, on Saturday or on Monday is quite okay. I just don't know.
Craig, you mentioned Mondays are not the best for you. Tuesday is fine.
Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays are my best days to make a more firm commitment than. That sounds really vague. I'm sorry, but they're better days for me.
Yeah, fair enough. So how about we move the start of the sprint to Tuesday then?
Tuesday.
That would be perfect.
No, let's do it Tuesday.
Okay.
Tuesday. What time? 1900. After the scrum?
Yeah.
For me, that's the only time that I can sort of commit to, basically.
Okay.
I'm
so
okay with
after the
this.
scrum. Okay.
And I guess we'll change this to Tuesday too.
Every second Tuesday. Okay, Tuesday.
Okay, Pavel, is there anything else as far as the format that we need to talk about?
Not right now. I think it's enough right now.
Okay. So we're making progress. Are we ready to move on to some of these technical discussions? Does anybody object?
No.
No. Okay. All right. So this has come up in discussions already, and we clearly need a way to handle it. We have data that is, first of all, legacy. So it's coming from these spreadsheets, for example, where the names are matched up with province codes. And this is not expected to change, I suppose. So we need to think about a way to handle this data where it's almost constant, but maybe not quite. Is that right?
Yes. Like it might change with a very low probability, but that's very rare. And even if that happens, I think it will be okay for the client to ask, maybe have it as a story, and then it goes through the whole development part. So because it might require changing to the code or something. So it's not something they will expect to, for example, have configurable on the fly online changes to those tables, for example.
Yeah.
Viv, why don't you want to participate in this discussion? Because this is right about systems or business analysis.
Because I'm still finding out everything. If I can be of support, let me know. I haven't looked at the tables. I haven't seen the Excel spreadsheets. So I don't really know what to say until I start actually working with the code and I see what their data looks like.
Okay.
But after that, yes, I think I can really be of help to you on the team.
Excel spreadsheets is not about coding, right? So it's that you may help.
What is it? If you have any questions, is there anything you want to discuss about Excel spreadsheets and data?
I assume something like this comes up very often in business environments, for example, where you have, think about, for example, branches. You have an organization and you have multiple branches belonging to this organization. So in the table, for example, I'm just talking generically, not about specific tables for OSRA. So you would have one data record that comes from a specific branch. So you need the branch ID to belong to that record so that you know where the origin of that from. And should be a branch table where it will include the data about the branch itself with a foreign key, or the primary key of that branch table will be the foreign key in that record in the master table, for example.
Guys, why don't we have it in a code for the not specific table for branches, but the code for the record? Like every record has their own guide or something like that with branch in that code. Like first 2 or 3 numbers, it's the code for that branch, something like that.
And you mean put that as part of the ID for that
yes,
record?
of course.
Okay. So this is exactly what the client needs. Like the client does not want to see the IDs in the database. They want us to generate an ID. If you saw one story we already implemented has the partner ID, which is generated based on the code of the province the partner is operating in, and some sequence number.
That's your sequence gem, isn't it?
Yeah, the sequence gem is just to generate the sequence number, but then that is prefixed by the ID from the province they belong to. Similar thing will happen with sponsors from the branch that brought them in, for example. Similar thing with the orphan from which province they belong to, plus other details. So that's an ID, a calculated ID, not related to the ID that's generated by the DB.
Everything you're saying, Motasem, it sounds to me like it would be helpful to have an entity relationship diagram, which is just, I don't know if you're using it right now, but because everything is interdependent, it just so everyone once they start coding knows how everything relates to each other, because it doesn't sound like there's just one foreign key. There are a couple of items you want to string together so that you can identify which sponsor, which orphan, which province. It looks like you need an ERD so that you can see it before you start coding. So you have all the pieces that you need for the keys. You make sure that's included in the code. That's the only thing I would suggest.
Do we have ERD diagram now?
It's not documented. Like I can come up with something, I can design. I remember one of the earliest meetings with the client, they come up with something like at a high level, not with all the attributes, but a high level with this table depends on this table because this is the relationship between them. So they have something like this. But again, when we started, I was also
maybe if you can help with this diagram.
I can definitely, yeah, we can work together, or I can come up with an initial version and have some comments on it and then improve it. But originally, actually, honestly, I always thought that the RDs belong to the plan and document methodology, while in Agile...
No, Motasem. Sorry, but ERDs, you can do it in the easiest way, but I think that ERD is something that you should start off. When I starting to make any project in any areas, I pictured that not ERD diagram, it's much easier. I use domain model diagram that is much easier, but it content relationships between objects in our domain, and this is what we should have. especially when it comes to the data. And I think we should create it. Yeah.
Okay, this is another thing that I can create. I can work on this as well. So I'll come up with the diagram, including all the models that are at least part of phase 0. I can have all of those mapped and linked. But now even like, I mean, okay, so assume we have an ERD. The decision whether to have, for example, there was a discussion earlier, whether to have, for example, the province data. Is it a table or just the code in the record itself, or is that maybe in a YAML configuration file? This technical decision.
Yes, we need to discuss if we want to have it as an object or not. If you want to make any actions on that province, it should be an object. If we want to use this just to refer, so we need to discuss. It's a very important thing that we need to discuss. Yeah,
because I mean that discussion is not related to actually having the ARD. So I'll have the ARD, and then based on the discussion, we'll decide whether that box in the ARD will go into a table or will go into.
Yes, because the ARD is just for discussion. It is the start for our discussion, and you can, Viv, I hope you will help MotoSem with ERD.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, yeah, definitely. If you have a template, for example, or a sample, or a tool, for example, online.
We have enough experience to do it, so please help.
I know.
I will do whatever MotoSem wants me to do. So you just lead the way, MotoSem, and I will do whatever you want me to do.
Okay, I'll come up with the first draft, and then I'll send it to you.
There is Craig. He left. Does he said anything or just lose his connection?
Oh, he's gone.
Yes, he's gone, and I don't know what's happened.
That's unfortunate. Yeah, the question that Craig and I had, that what to do with all of these
Sorry about that.
There he is.
Broadband, you gotta love it.
Right. So yeah, the question was not so much about the interrelationships at this point, but more about the with Pavel, what you brought up, so how to store this data or how to code it, basically. Because it seems, for example, again going back to provinces where this whole thing started, it seems unlikely that provinces will change or that new ones will be added or something needs to be deleted. But what if, I guess, and is it something that we need to plan for, or is it enough to just make it into a constant and go with that for the time being?
My personal feeling, after we've discussed this a fair bit, is that we should keep it as a conventional active record model, so that we can add to it if we want, but then just have simple validation that checks that if it's code 2, then it has to be province X, and if it's code, I mean, you know them better than I do, and if it's code 3, check that the province name is province Y, and then basically with something like a case statement, and then the default is that if it's none of those numbers, it's fine. Go ahead. So then you've got the facility, if you want, to create new ones in the future, but any ones that are based on historic data have a check against them. I don't know what other people's feelings are on that.
But it sounds like if we pre-populate the database with the existing data and we expect those codes to always match up the existing province names, then checks are not necessary as long as those records are frozen, basically.
Checks for validation, you mean?
Well, there is no need for validation if province A is always code 1, and we don't expect anybody to reuse the same province name or the same province code. So the only check that we need, in fact, is on future records, not using the same codes. But the if we enter the existing provinces with their names and codes into the database, then there is no more checking that we need to do on them because that data is
fixed.
Is fixed, yeah.
I'm not sure what's the better approach. Like all my previous projects, we had everything in the database. And in extreme cases, or not extreme cases, but like in cases where the client would ask for a mechanism to change those, we would give them a page to access that particular table and list. They can see the values and can change that. And of course, there will be checks. That you cannot delete province, for example, if you already have orphans from that province linked to that.
But in that case, the province is the same kind of an object as anything else. It is editable, destructible. Like it's not locked in any way.
I guess, yeah.
I know what you're saying, Nick. I guess maybe it's being a little bit overcautious. The overhead that's involved in the validation is possibly minimal, and it just guards anyone coming in and editing the code base. And it's not just what people might do through the front end. It's whether you allow update attributes or what have you in Rails in the future, and someone writes a bit of code, and then before you know it,
yeah.
I don't know. Maybe I'm just being a little bit too paranoid, but
I agree. I don't know why, but I just feel like it's a gotcha. I just feel that all data should be validated, even historical data, because there's always that corner case that, maybe they just go back and all the provinces have changed, you need to update it. That something always happens. I feel better. I don't think it's a huge overhead. And I think once you validate all the data, then the new ones you're bringing in will automatically be validated. I just think it's simpler, actually, just to write it once.
So then the validation in this case would be that this particular province name matches with this particular code.
yeah, I mean I know it sounds ridiculous, but yeah, if code equals 2, then province equals, or vice versa, if province equals.
And then there is for any new record, that validation doesn't run, basically.
Well, it would run, but it would just get to the default case statement at the end and pass because there's no guard in the default.
Is this something that we could even could we make it? I guess that this might be getting too tricky, at least for me, to make it so that once you add a new record, then that province name and that province code are now forever matched up. Yeah. So basically, the validation needs to be updated whenever the database is updated.
Can we do something like, for example, we will have a seed to fill the database with the initial values, right?
Sure.
Yeah, so we can write the seed, instead of writing the actual records in the seed, spell them out, maybe have maybe a YAML file with the list of the values and have a logic in the seed DB to read from those, and for each one insert the value record. And then similarly for the validation also, take that from that file and also go through the validation on all of them. Adding a new value would mean that at that time just adding one more entry to that text or YAML file, for example.
Yeah, but that would be done manually then?
Well, what about, or is this ridiculous, what about the default statement, the default validation triggering a log or a mail to let someone know that, I mean, we're talking about something where we don't think it'll even maybe change ever.
Yeah.
To an extent, it's an exceptional case. If that triggered some sort of event that let an admin know that that data wasn't being guarded against, and it was, I don't know whether that's easier or more difficult.
Are you talking about the validation on the on the form itself when I submit something through the form? It goes.
Well,
because on the form itself, it will be most probably it will be just a drop-down list of possible values.
It's all fixed, but I think we're guarding, rather than guarding against what people use form-wise, we're maybe guarding against what developers might write.
I see.
In the future.
Yes.
Maybe I'm panicking about this too much. Maybe it's not so much of an issue.
I mean, maybe going back to the principle of just give the clients wanted to have this list of provinces, so let's not overthink the cases where these might change or how to guard against malicious users or malicious developers. Let's get the story finished, delivered with just the simplest thing we can do, and then we think about the future enhancements or modularization of the whole thing.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
That's a good idea.
Sounds good to me.
So okay. So then in that case, what's the implementation? Do we put these things in a database and then lock it, or do we set them up as constants?
Well, they're in the database now, and they've been seeded. So I guess it's done.
Okay, so we have only 1,200 records, right? Not assembly.
No. You're talking about no. That's not a seed. I'm talking about the province. I have 14 provinces. That's a seed because that's like a reference value.
No, I understand, but we are talking about that whole base is not that big, so we can, if we face a problem, we can easily
worst case, somebody will go down the database level, do some SQL queries, fix it, and go back.
So we shouldn't spend too much time on trying to make it best, because the consequences of mistake is not that big for us now, so we can go in the easiest way. Later we can decide better architecture.
Okay. My other question regarding that was what to do in tests. Because initially I created a factory that made valid provinces, so it actually matched up the names with valid codes. But then the alternative solution was to actually seed the test database with valid province data. Does anybody have any input on that?
From me, when you say testing or specs for a model, I just want to know, for example, the province model, it has an ID or a code and a name. So I'm testing this model for me, or spec for this model means that I don't have, for example, a province with only a code with a missing name. I don't have two provinces with duplicated code.
Yeah,
but the spec itself should not care about if the spelling of the name of the province matches the actual spelling of the province in the country, for example. That's not a spec thing to worry about.
No, but when you're writing cucumber stories, you're going to want a story. Kind of cucumber stories, I think, lose a little bit when you talk about user 1 and province 1, and I think from that point of view, is that what you're thinking of, Nick?
Yeah, I'm thinking of, even if we think about not province specs, but for example a partner spec, and so the partner has an associated province. So then to create that province in the test, just to make sure that the partner object is valid, I implemented a factory initially But since provinces are such a constant set of data, then the alternative solution would be to seed the test database and just pull a record from it, and create the partner object like that for the test. Because
and you can reuse the same production seed, if I want to call this, like the actual real data. Yeah. So
yeah, I think so.
That would work. Yeah.
Okay. Because the problem with factories is that they are, since we have a finite list of valid codes, it becomes a finite resource. So in the unlikely event that you actually create a whole bunch of, you try to create a whole bunch of province objects, you might actually run out of them.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Well, I don't know if this needs to be resolved tonight. What I'll try to do is to figure out ways to seed the test database with, in this particular case, with province data. And if I'm successful, I think that would be, the test environment then would be very close to what we have in development and production. So the provinces wouldn't be these magical objects, province 1, province 2, but they would be the actual real things.
Another alternative, Nick, would be, because at the moment you're only error checking on the code, on the number, aren't you, rather than the name, the code rather than the name?
That's true. The only thing it checks is whether the code belongs to that set.
So you could cycle through that code infinitely and just continually make a different name with a different ID.
The codes have to be unique.
Do they? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, that's the trick. Yeah. Anyway, it seems, on the one hand, it seems a very kind of distant possibility that there are, how many, 14 provinces? Is that right, Morrison?
14.
Yeah.
14 plus 1 special for somebody from outside of Syria.
Right. So, the probability of creating 14 test objects is essentially nil.
Yeah.
But I'm still not comfortable with, kind of leaving that as a possibility. Okay, so yeah, like I said, unless somebody has any other suggestions, I'll look into this and try to implement it.
Yeah, I'm okay with this.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Then the next item is what Craig brought up, this idea that sponsors have a gender, but then we also have institutional sponsors.
Okay, yes, this point. It's not really an institutional sponsor. It's a sponsor who was introduced to USRA through an organization or through another institution. So it is, at the end of the day, it is still, that sponsor is still an individual with a gender, they have a gender, but the source where they came from is not through USRA itself, but through one of the sister organizations. So that's the distinction. Okay. It's not actually an organization sponsoring.
Why do you want to have a sex of sponsor?
That's a question for the client. I'm assuming, I can guess here, that the USRA employees, they might have, USRA employees might be, for example, divided into different teams, and they will have maybe one team who is targeting the male sponsors, another team maybe kind of like their target is for example, housewives, so they will be, so maybe this kind of differentiation will be based on the gender of the sponsor and assigning that sponsor particularly to a different team within the USRA team.
And for sponsor we have a different object, right? The object sponsor. It's not just yeah. It's
you mean as a model? Yeah.
In the model we have a specific.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. Like they have an address, they have contact details, they have. And then later we will have to link the sponsor to the set of orphans they are sponsoring.
Yeah. But in this case, we can easily do type of sponsor, like institutional and personal. And institutional doesn't have sex, but personal have sex. Just wait.
No. But I'm saying that I mean it is currently like this, like type. But type does not mean that an institution is sponsoring the actual orphan. It's still an individual, a person, who is the sponsor, but that type means where the sponsor was introduced to OSRA from. Was it through OSRA employee directly or through a sister organization? So that organization will be not the actual sponsor, but will be the link between how this sponsor came to know of this orphan through an organization.
So this is basically a client, the client's requirement,
yes,
or client specification.
Yeah, honestly, I think it's a bit confusing, but this is how they want it. We can maybe discuss with them, or if we can come up with something better, I think they will be also open to suggestions on how to improve this.
Okay. So yeah, maybe that's an item for the next client meeting, perhaps. Okay, and this is a pretty minor point here. When I submitted the pull request to introduce Factory Girl, Brian mentioned these shooter matchers. I don't know if anybody's familiar with this gem. Has anybody seen it?
I've seen it, yes. But I thought this is like with the new RSpec syntax, you don't need this. Or I mean, it's better to just use the RSpec 3 syntax.
Yeah, actually, let me see if I can find an example of this, and I can specifically go right to the pull request. Right. So his comment was that for all tests like this, for example, we're validating here that code that there, whatever model this is, that the sponsor type should always have a code. I do it here explicitly, where I say, set the sponsor type code to blank, and in that case, the object should not be valid. But with these shooter matchers, it is possible to write, I guess specifically it's the second line, it is expected to validate the presence of code. So this entire block gets replaced
by a single line.
Now, I chose not to switch to shooter matchers because, to me, I mean, I understand the savings in, typing, let's say, but this, to me, is much more explicit, and unless you know what shooter matchers do, this may be not entirely clear.
It's another gem and another dependency as well, isn't it?
Fair enough, yeah. So my vote at the end of the day was not to include this, but that this should be a team decision.
I'm happy to have explicit over.
I'm okay both ways. I like the idea that this is a single line, and I think it is still readable, except maybe this. And I think this is a well-maintained gem as well, if I'm not mistaken. It's gonna be like, so I don't mind either way. So
yeah. I guess we really should keep our specs consistent. So we either include it everywhere,
definitely. All over we need to be consistent. Either way. Yeah.
The only reason I think either way is fine, but moving forward, I believe we're going to be doing a lot of testing, or there'll be a lot of testing needed for the different phases, at which point I do believe that the shorter shooter matchers gem will come in very helpful. I think once you start, for the first couple of tests, no problem, but I think there'll be a lot of testing, and this simplified code one line will be very helpful in the future. That's my only point. In the future, it'll be very helpful.
Okay, so we have Are we at 50-50 now?
We're divided, I think.
I don't have a strong enough opinion on it to be against it.
Yeah. Well, I suppose as long as it's, I mean, the team that's working on this code is basically all here, and as long as we all agree that, we understand what this is, then in that case, shall we say, let's go ahead and introduce this gem?
If we're voting, I vote yes.
Yeah. Viv, it sounds like you're voting yes.
Yes. I mean, your code looks beautiful, but I'm just saying that in the future, it looks good, elegant code. But I'm just saying in the future, it will help to just do it one line. That's all.
Sure, fair enough. I mean, the beautiful or not, the fact is this kind of code very quickly becomes redundant because every single model has these types of attributes that need to be both present and unique, and for each one of them writing these blocks becomes rather tedious. Okay, Craig, you abstain?
No, I'm quite happy to go with the team, so yes.
All right, okay, so we are voting to introduce the Shuda Matchers gem. Does anybody see it as a priority to refactor now existing specs to use the shooter matchers, or we can leave them as is for the time being?
Personally, for example, I'm still working on a pull request for the orphan model, so I will refactor them as I go along for my piece. The things that are have been already merged, I'm not sure what does the team think.
Yeah. Well, actually, and as far as introducing the gem, do we want this to be a completely separate pull request? Yeah, basically just one line in the gem file, and that's it.
I like that idea, at the risk of being a pain in the backside.
No, I'm with you. So as a and that should allow it to get merged in very quickly, and then whoever's writing specs can start using it immediately.
Yeah.
Okay. And let's say hold off on refactoring.
Yes, for the things that have already been merged.
Yeah, I think stuff that's been merged already, it's not a priority. As you come across them, you should change them. I think if we've got anything that hasn't been merged yet, we should maybe put this gem in as a priority on a pull request, get it in there, and then change anything that's pending. That's my gut feel.
And then going forward, every time we touch one of the models for another PR, we go through the specs. Yeah, we tidy it up. Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. So that's all I had on my pseudo agenda. Is there anything else that we would like to talk about?
No. Personally, I know I need to do the stories and ERD, and I'll try to finish my PR as well.
Okay, so yeah, immediate things here. I have introduced, and actually the other thing is here put remaining stories into pivotal tracker. So these are immediate goals, I suppose, and
I will do that.
And I guess let's move this into the immediate area here. So we're done?
Yeah, I can't think of anything else.
Yeah.
Did you put the create an ERD?
Yeah, it's right here.
Oh yeah, for sure. Okay.
Is that what it is? Sorry, I'm not familiar.
Yeah,
that's
it is.
entity relationship diagram. That's. I'm looking forward to seeing what that is.
Okay.
Okay, if there's nothing else, I guess thank you everybody for a very productive meeting.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Everybody.
And I'll be putting the summary.
Left. Just wanted to ask, is she on the Slack channel or?
Yes, she's on the Slack channel. She is
Under a different name?
Evo 2015.
2015.
Okay, okay. Evo 2015. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, and yeah, as I was saying, I'll put the summary up on as a document on our project page on Agile Ventures, and please make your comments and corrections.
Mm-hmm.
Appreciate you taking the lead on that, Nick, because I was very, very poorly prepared.
Yeah, sure, no worries. All right, guys. Everybody have a good evening.
Yeah, you too. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Everybody. Thanks.
Cheers. Bye.